Okay, let's get rid of all of this and let's just have a simple array. I'm going to call it n. Let's call it n array. Let's be nice. And I'm going to have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. Nice small array. And if I print n array, number array, oops, spell it properly, it's going to print out 1, 2, 3, and 4. Nothing stunning there for you. Pretty straightforward. There we go. There's our 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's close this down so that when we run it, it gives us a clean window. There we go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now the thing is, we can change, if we know the index of a value, we can change one of these. So let's say I'm going to change the value 2 and make it 10. I could write simply that n array at position 0, 1 is equal to 10. And then I can copy that and do print array, so I can show you the changed array. So if I run that and click OK, there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the first array when I printed out. Then I change the value at index 1, the second element, and it worked quite nicely. It put it in there. The thing that you can't do with this is, and it will generate an error, is if I try to put something in the array that is beyond the end. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. If I tried to put the fourth element, which will be outside that, it's almost like adding an item to my array. You might want to do that. If I put 6 in there, you'll see that we will end up with an error. So let's try that and see what happens. And then we go, we've got our first array, the second array with the 10 inserted, and then we've tried to assign something to a non-existent element in my array. Now arrays are fixed in size, particularly for exam purposes. Arrays are fixed in size. So this can never have any more than 4 elements. And I'm going to say that with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek because obviously we're using Python and lists, so there are ways of doing it. There are also ways of sort of merging arrays together to make them larger. But to begin with, arrays are fixed in size. Another thing that we cannot do is this. Let's just try n array at position 0, the first element equals 1. We cannot do that. So if I save and run that, I should get an error, because n array is not defined. In other words, it doesn't know what n array is. And generally, if we're going to use arrays in our programs, we need to declare them before we can use them. So I would need to do something similar to this. And I say similar because this is not actually going to work. So I've said I've got n array and it's an empty array. And then I'm going to try to add at the very first position the value 1. So if I save and run that, again, I'm expecting an error because, as I said, they need to be fixed in size. That is empty. There is nothing at the first position. So really, I need to put something there. I'm going to put 12, the value 12. That will now work fine. So if I run it again, well, when I say work fine, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to print anything out. It's just going to sit there. But if I do n array, it gives me the value 1. And that is only the same as me typing in here, print n array. So if I run that, that will save me typing in the shell. There you go. So a couple of things there. Arrays are fixed in length. And when they're fixed in length, we call them static. Oh, that's nice. We call them static. However, modern languages and lists in particular are actually things called dynamic. In other words, we can change their length at will. So I'm going to give you an example of dynamic now, but you've got to bear in mind that this will not appear in your exam. But if you go on to do A-level computing, you will meet this almost definitely. So let's start off with what we were doing again. So I'm going to say n array equals the empty array. I have to declare my array. Let's just put a note there. You have to declare. And I'll give you an example of that in a second. Now, if I want to add things to my array, I could just put n array dot append, and if I put 1, and notice I am doing round brackets. I'm putting a 1 into my array. I've not used square brackets. Append is a function, and we're just putting something in there. We're not playing with an array. And if I just do print n array, with a bit of luck, you will see that 1 has been added to my list. And I can keep doing that. So if I copy that and append the value 12 and do it again, append the value -1 and then print that out, you should see that my array is being built up. It's not fixed size. I didn't have to make it fixed size to begin with. This is called a dynamic array. In some languages it exists, in others it does not. The version that you'll use in the exam should be fixed. In other words, you shouldn't have to append anything to your array. But this is just for completeness. So there we go. It's made the array consisting of 1, 12 and -1. Now, going back to this, if I just did n array dot append 4, so I'm going to put 4 into my array and print n array. Give you a second to think about what's going to happen and possibly why. So while I save it and run it, I got an error message and it's saying that it is not defined. So although I tried to put 4 into an array, it's dynamic, it should have built. What I had to do was declare my array before I used it. So I've said I've got an empty array there. But even in dynamic arrays, you must declare before you can use it. And there we go. We've got the 4. So the interesting part about this, it really isn't the append. I'm not that bothered about append. As I said, that is not going to appear in the exam. 1, 2, 3. It was the fact that I could say n array at position 2, That is the value 3, 0, 1, 2. Position 2 equals, I don't know, let's make it a big number. And when I run it, it's going to change that last one to this value. And that is really what I wanted to show. So there's my array 1, 2, and the rather large value. The fact that we can change these values. If we can change the values, we have a new word to learn, and it is called mutable. I must stop pressing that control key. It is called mutable. And we're going to look at that in the next video. We're going to compare arrays and strings.